for showing up. And thank you for supporting Frank Caprio for governor. And thank you for caring enough fairly early in this political season to come out in substantial numbers today. I want to thank Nick Pell for the remarks he made before we came up, and tell you again how much I admired your grandfather, how much I loved working with him. And Nuala Pell, Mrs. Pell, thank you for being here today. I'm deeply honored. I want to thank the Secretary of State, and I think Mayor Cicilline may have just come in. I think all of the officials that are here. But I came today because I wanted to support Frank Caprio, Gabriella Frank Jr., their family. I'm grateful that he's running for governor. And I want to talk to you about this seriously. You know, it is true. I do keep coming back to Rhode Island. I love it here. And besides, Mark Weiner makes me make an appearance at every campaign. You know, I do love it. You were so good to me in 1992 and in 1996, and you were very good to Hillary in last election. I want to say a couple of things about where we are now. First of all, we got in a deep hole with this financial collapse that was pretty deep even before it happened. And I think it's important that we all remember this. You remember when I took office, at least those of you are old enough, back in the dark ages, in January of '93. That was so long ago that the average cell phone weighed 5 pounds. And there were only 50 sites on the entire World Wide Web. Shoot, more than that have been at it since I started talking. But anyway, when I came into office, the dominant economics of the country in the Reagan-Bush years was trickle-down economics. The idea was just, you know, cut taxes mostly for upper-income people and interest groups, and don't worry about how big the debt gets. So we got a permanent deficit, we quadrupled the national debt, and the country was in the dumps. So in 8 years, we turned it around, produced 4 surpluses, 22.7 million jobs. You did that. We did it together. And I'm going to tell you why the governor is important about it. But we did it by investing in our people, in small business growth, in diversifying the kinds of people who could own businesses, and in bringing back manufacturing. We had 6 of the 8 years I was president, we had manufacturing job growth. We were doing real things. Okay, then my tenure ran out and the 2000 election was close enough to get into the Supreme Court, and we lost that 5-4. And so then the Republicans, the trickle-down Republicans, had the White House and both houses of Congress for the first time, and they gave us what we had in the 80s on steroids, with the consequence that by the 2008 election, we were in even worse shape than we were in 1992. But let me remind you what happens when you discard arithmetic and you forget about creating jobs. Before this financial meltdown, think back to where Rhode Island was. Before September the 15th, 2008, everybody was already in trouble. Your unemployment rate was already one of the highest in the country. Why? Well, in a period of nominal growth, instead of investing this money in helping people afford health care and afford education and helping small businesses start and expand and helping bring back manufacturing, we invested all the money in housing, consumer spending, and finance, which meant that literally 90% of the benefits of this decade before the meltdown went to the top 10% of us. 43% just to 1% of us. There were no new jobs. We had, in the whole country, 2.7 million new jobs before the meltdown. Then September 15th comes along and the chickens come home to roost. If you don't have proper financial oversight and you allow too much leverage, some of these financial houses were leveraged at 34 to 1. You know, and a bank normally is leveraged at 10 to 1. And everything your mother raised you on turned out to be true. If something sounds too good to be true, it almost certainly is. And it's just a question of when you get bit. So America got bit. And then we got in a really deep hole. We wound up 7 million jobs down. Now, as President Obama said the other day, in America, as this election unfolds, we're being told by the other party that even though they drove the car in the ditch, they would like the keys back. Because we've not gotten it all the way out of the ditch yet. So the first thing I want to say to you is, I hope that Rhode Island will recognize that we have done some very important things here. First, in the short run, this stimulus bill has, I don't care what anybody says, created more jobs than people thought. And secondly, it was only a third of it went to jobs. A third of it went to state and local governments to keep them from laying off 1 million more people, mostly teachers and healthcare workers. And a third of it went to modest income working families to give them money to buy groceries. Everybody's forgotten what it was like, or a lot of people have, right after this meltdown. People were terrified that the whole country was going to collapse on us. So that happened. The health care bill is already proving not only to allow families to keep their older children on health insurance and give preventive things like mammograms to women when they reach the age when they need them to avoid cancer, it's also proving to push people to best practices in holding down inflation and medical costs. The biggest problem in the debt of America for the future, the biggest problem in all of our budget, is that health care costs are now going up 3 times the rate of inflation again, after 8 years in which we kept them within inflation. Before the meltdown, health care costs after inflation had doubled. And we can't keep doing it. So the health care reform bill will help in that. We'll have to do more, but it will help. The President and the Congress have drastically cut the cost of financing a college education by making national and mandatory the system that I had as an option where young people, first of all, can borrow directly from the government at a lower interest rate. And secondly, nobody ever has to drop out of college again because they've got a big debt and they're afraid that as a school teacher, a fireman, a police officer, they won't be able to pay it back, because now everybody has the option to pay their college debt back as a percentage of their income and no more, even if it takes 1 year. Congress, they've accomplished some important things. The polls don't show it. Why? Because people feel terrible still. You don't have the jobs coming back into Rhode Island. Now, here's why this governor's race is so important, and why you want somebody with the kind of old-fashioned family and work values you just heard from, I hope, soon-to-be Governor Caprio. Here's why you want this. Because almost all of these federal programs require the governors and the states to implement them. I'll give you an example. You heard talking about small business? There's one federal program which the states had to ask for that you can use in this difficult time to help small businesses subsidize the salaries of their employees so they don't lay people off and maybe they can take some more people on. I think he would maximize the use of that. I don't think you have the last time I saw it. I'll give you another example. The Congress is about to consider a program that I have been pushing for a year now, which would give a federal guarantee like the SBA, the small business does, to banks if they loan money to start a business. It would give it to try to attack the 25% unemployment in construction, where we've got so many unemployed workers in Rhode Island and throughout the country, by saying, okay, we can't build more houses now and we don't need many more office buildings, but what if we decided that we were going to make more energy efficient every single existing building